Hey everyone, Brandon here. Just a quick intro before we dive in. Today I'm catching up with my friend and colleague Nicole Blevins. She just returned from maternity leave recently and stepped into a brand new role as Director of HR Services. We talk candidly about newborn chaos, paid family leave, and what career growth looks like when life gets real. This episode is brought to you by Xenium HR, your partner for complete HR, payroll, and benefits solutions so that you can focus on what matters most. Stick around. Let's get into the conversation with Nicole Blevins. Nicole, it is so good to have you on Transform Your Workplace again.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back and getting to do this with you again. This is great.
Me too. I've missed you. For listeners who are longtime listeners, you'll recognize Nicole, the voice. Nicole and I have made it a point to have something regularly on the calendar where we talk about various topics. And you'll probably notice that she's been gone a while.
It's
She's
been
been
a bit.
on maternity leave. And then even when you got
Yeah.
back, it was like, I'm not going to bother her. It's a whole different world being a working parent. And
Yeah.
you also got a promotion during the time too.
Yeah.
So just a lot to talk about with
Yeah.
you. But I first want to just talk about the life-changing event that happens in your life when you have a child, and then now you're not the center of the universe, or your
Yeah.
partner's not the center of the universe anymore. It's now the child, and you just have different needs, don't you?
Y
Tell me about what you experience.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a whole new world. It's a big change. And it's funny, before having my baby, I remember thinking like, wow, 12 weeks of maternity leave, that's a long time. That's a great time. Like 3 months off of work. I've never been that far gone from work before and not connected. And so I remember thinking it's such a long time. And I feel like it went by in the blink of an eye. It really did go by super, super fast. And I'm like, wait, I have to go back to work now. It's been 3 months and it went by so fast. I think that was the biggest perception shift of thinking that it's such a long time prior to being in that situation. And then actually experiencing it, saying, wow, this is actually not really as much time as I thought it was. And it goes by so quickly. And it's a big adjustment for sure. I would say I am constantly thinking about this other little human and not myself anymore. I'm always focused on my needs prior to this. I'm gonna go grab a quick coffee or do all these
Mhm.
things with my free time, and I'm always thinking of him and having to put him first and meet his needs first. So it is a challenge. It's a big adjustment. I have so much respect for you and other people at Xenium that I've worked with that have been managing their children, that big shift during COVID, before COVID, all of that I can't even imagine. So yeah, it's been a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. My kids are the ages of 13, 11, so I've been through it. They're a little bit more self-sustaining than a baby is. It's a lot easier nowadays. Different set of problems, I'll say,
Yeah.
or different set of challenges, not problems, just challenges. And
Yeah.
it's a journey too. And it's like I always say the why I do what I do, work and produce is for my family. And I'm sure you've looked at it that way now too. This is work has got to fit in my life now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got people that rely on me.
Yeah, exactly. It is a shift too, thinking of before having my baby, just really being super motivated and driven and focused on work.
Yeah.
I've always had these career goals and things that I've been trying to achieve. And I'd be working late or work through lunch sometimes. And really having the baby has taught me to slow down.
Yeah.
I can't operate at the level that I was able to in the past. I have to take breaks to be able to pump or breastfeed or take care of him or check on him. And so it is like a shift, and it helps you slow down and realize what's important, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense because you have to be intentional, and I think that's kinda what you're saying about slowing down. I don't think
Yeah.
it's truly slowing down because it's like it feels like transaction mode a lot of times because you have to be at a certain place or you have to do a certain thing or to take care of the kid, and so it is feels fast,
Yeah.
but I get what you're saying about, just focusing on what's important
Yes.
and being in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say slower from that standpoint. Yeah, good point. It definitely is like drinking from a fire hose and trying to do
Yeah.
a million things at once and work really quickly. But your mindset in terms of I have to think of these other things first and think of someone
Yeah.
else first.
So in the past, we live in Oregon, and paid leave Oregon became a
Yeah.
thing. It was a couple years ago, and so for now, parents who are going to have a child, like it becomes a little bit easier probably to
Yeah.
take that full 3 months off or however long that you want to take. Whereas a lot of people struggle with this. So maybe talk about that and just like your just state of worry. Like maybe you had less worry than other people might have.
Yeah. Honestly, paid leave Oregon was amazing in terms of that being available here in Oregon. I think it's huge. And I was like having this conversation with my husband the other day of if paid leave Oregon wasn't a thing here, what would have happened? Would I have taken like the full 12 weeks of leave? Would I have done that? And we were like, no, I don't know that we could have afforded to do that. We probably would have used as much PTO or things that I had
Yep.
available for as long as I possibly could, and then likely would have had to come to work sooner. It really does change the experience. And like I mentioned, 3 months sounds like a really long time from
Fast.
someone who didn't have a kid. When I didn't have a kid, it sounds and feels like a long time. I'm like, a 2 week vacation back then I felt was like a nice long vacation. So I'm like, oh, 12 weeks, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it really is not. It goes by super, super fast, and I feel like I just started to get in a good groove of things, like, when I got close to that 12-week or 3-month period of, "Alright, I'm, like, figuring this thing out and how to take care of a baby and take care of myself at the same time." And just when you're starting to, like, get comfortable and feel like you've got it figured out, then it's like, "All right, back to work now. I've gotta figure this new thing out and
Yeah.
get into a new rhythm and a new groove." And I think I'm a huge advocate for paid leave programs because, having experienced it firsthand, I think it's so important. And those first 3 months too with the baby are super critical in terms of bonding and building a relationship. So I think there's a lot of states that are adding paid leave programs now, and there's been movement towards that. But it's incredibly important, and I'm really thankful that was available to me because I probably wouldn't have had as much time with my
Yeah.
baby if I hadn't.
So
So,
important. Those the first several months with a newborn are so important. So
yeah,
I'm a huge advocate for if an employer can offer it as a benefit or
yeah,
if you have to have a state run program, that works too. I think back of 13 years ago when I had my wife had our first child and just having to rush back to work because one of us needed to make the money. And of course, I didn't have a short-term disability policy. I believe in self-insuring in a lot of ways, just from
yeah,
a financial standpoint. And so I didn't have a backup, and then we didn't have any sort of paid leave programs back then.
yeah,
And I think about all the future fathers out there and mothers, like paid leave is awesome
yeah,
because those first months are really important. And I rushed back after a week and a half or 2 weeks, I think. And I think about maybe what I missed out on
yeah,
and
yeah,
supporting too. Like it's not easy for a woman who gives, like, it's exhausting.
yeah. It is
You're up throughout the
incredibly
night and the
exhausting.
days.
Yes,
I just want a nap.
yeah, I can say that for sure. And my husband and I did something interesting where we staggered our leaves. So
Wow.
I took my 12 weeks and then he also got his 12 weeks of bonding, but he took that after I returned to work so that we
Mm.
could delay the need for childcare and stuff for at least
Yes.
the first six
Smart.
months. And that was great, but my husband just used his PTO and took the first 3 weeks off with me at home and then went back to work after 3 weeks, and I remember feeling like, "God, this sucks." Like, I had this person to help me all the time, and now they're back to work, and I feel alone and trying to figure this all out on my own, and just thinking about that too, like, we were able to stagger, but there's a lot of people that just have to go back to work
Yeah.
after 3 weeks because they can't afford it or for whatever reason. And that's really hard on both people involved, myself trying to navigate that, the baby as well being used to maybe seeing their dad all the time and then not as much. But remote work has that could be a totally different topic, but
Yeah.
remote work helped a lot as well. Like my husband works remotely, so he was still here, but I couldn't like bug him all the time for help
Yeah.
and for things. And I'm working right now. We work a lot remotely. We do go into the office quite a bit for different meetings and things, but I'm home. My husband's here right now with the baby, and that's just a different dynamic and experience
Yes.
too, maybe from what you experienced when you're completely removed from that. I'm hearing the baby crying and I'm like wondering what's going on. And it's just, there's a lot.
Yeah. I have a lot of swirling thoughts about that because I did have a very different experience than you
Yeah.
did. But I also see the needs as a parent now be like the working at home or having that flexibility is
Yeah,
so
it's
important
great.
to
Yeah.
be there for the stuff. I live 30 minutes away from the office, so it's not that far away, but
Yeah.
if I need to go pick up a kid from school or take him to school or help with something, I'm able to do it because I
Yeah.
have that much flexibility in my work.
Yeah.
And my employer, Xenium, is amazing
Yeah.
at the
Agreed.
flexibility too. And I just didn't have that experience when I had the kids early on. I was like, we were all in the office. And so I was literally out of sight, out of mind for my wife and not helpful whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's I think that's the beauty of the flexibility nowadays is
It
like
is.
the partnership can work. And in between your life, those things can blend together without being a complete distraction, but being able to just, okay, I'm fully working right now, or okay, I'm going to take a break and I'm fully helping with whatever needs
Yeah.
to be done right now and just working together. I think it's so
Yeah.
important.
It is powerful, and I think the flexibility, the remote work, like, it has created this amazing opportunity, and it's not without its challenges, right,
Yeah,
like
of
I was
course.
saying, but it is incredibly helpful, like, having my husband here while I was on leave, other, like, working parents know, like, even just to go to the bathroom when you have this baby or this thing that you're trying to take care of
Yes.
is incredibly challenging. I'm like, "All right, I have to go," but they're, like, freaking out, and I can't just leave them, and so just being like, "Here, can you hold the baby for 5 minutes while I just go quickly run to the bathroom?" is like a game changer. It really is
Is
something as simple as that type of
yeah,
flexibility. I'm like, "Okay, I've got 5 minutes to, like, take care of
yeah.
myself." So there's just so many opportunities that presents.
If you think about before having kids and then after, like, your life as an employee, somebody who's working a lot and trying to develop your career, do you think your needs have changed, besides the needing the flexibility, what outside of that has changed for you?
I think the flexibility, like you mentioned, is a big one, but outside of that, I think just like a level of kind of understanding is like important to me from an emotional standpoint, if that makes sense. Like Zenium has been so flexible, which is great, but also I've got an amazing manager as well that's really like supportive and empathetic. And prior to having kids, I didn't really need that. I didn't consider like myself as someone that needed a lot of validation or reassurance that I'm doing okay or doing a good job or like needing someone to understand, "Oh, I've got to go run and do this," because I was very like focused on work and that was my primary objective or like my primary focus in life. And now I've got other focus. Like that's not my whole life anymore. I always said like prior to having my son that like work was work, but also a hobby for me. Like in my free
Mhm.
time, I
Yeah.
loved like
Yes.
going to
Same.
conferences, reading articles, doing all of
Yeah.
that. And it still is in
Mhm.
a lot of ways. But there are, like, other things that are important to me now, and that's spending time with my son, so it's important to me, like, at 5 o'clock that I'm able to disconnect and spend a little bit of time with him and have dinner with my husband and stuff, whereas before I might, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna finish this stuff and keep
Yeah.
powering through." So just that has changed a lot for me in terms of my perspective on, like, how I work and what's important and my need to just really have that support that
Mhm.
like validation that I'm still doing a good job and that success is not defined by grinding the midnight oil and like working and finishing all of these things, but how present you are and the impact that
Mhm.
you're making and what you're able to accomplish in a typical work day. So that's what I would say.
You're bringing up something I think is often unnoticed about like that transformation of you don't have kids and then all of a sudden you do is that there's just less time for everything and fitting everything in is hard because now you have this other responsibility. And so
Yeah.
prioritization is the most important thing. I
Yep.
think you're talking about the slowing down. I think it's about intentionality, it's about prioritization and working on the most important things because if you
Yep.
know that I've got to cut it off right at 5 and I can't spend an extra hour or even after dinner or something like responding to emails or working on this project,
Yeah.
if you have to cut it off, that means you gotta say yes to the most important things and
Yes.
try to either delegate or say no to the other stuff that doesn't matter as much. So
Yeah. And that's been, I would say, the other shift for me is I am a big yes person. Like, again, because it's my hobby and
same.
something I'm so
Yeah.
passionate about, I'm like, yes, I'll do that. I can do that. And I'm involved in all of these things outside of work. I did like mediation and I'm having to say no to some of those things. And I can't do that anymore because it's not my priority or it's not the most important thing right now. And so I'm having to shift in that way a little bit as well. And yeah, just like you said, prioritization is key.
The last thing I wanted to talk about with you is you came back and you were promoted to a director of HR services, which
Yeah.
has been a dream for you, I think.
Yes.
You vocally
Huge
talked about
career
it with
goal.
me and with other people. Just talk me through just
Yeah.
the feeling of coming back from maternity leave, this happening, and just a whole different level of responsibility now.
Yeah, it is. It has been my major career goal since like for over 15 years, since like I first entered college. I was like, this is what I want to be when I grow up type of thing. And so for that opportunity to be available when I returned from maternity leave was amazing. And I immediately was like, yes, I'm going for this. I want to apply. And it was also like a conversation in my head too of, God, I just have a baby, had a baby. This is going to be a huge responsibility, but it's important to me. It's like what I want to do, what I've always wanted to do. And so I went for it and obviously have that opportunity, which is amazing. And it has definitely been a shift of I care so much about doing a good job and being seen as a great leader. And so when I do something or accept a opportunity like that, I want to do it well. And that is, like, always been on my mind of, "Oh, because I can't work so late anymore, am I gonna do as good of a
Yeah.
job as I want to or as I can? Because I've got to have these, like, breaks in between here to go breastfeed or pump or take care of my baby, is that gonna impact, like, me being able to give it my all?" And I've been, like, really transparently self-conscious about that. I'm always, like,
Hmm.
questioning myself of, "Am I doing enough? Am I doing a good enough job? Am I making an impact?" And having great leadership and supportive leadership, I would say, is everything in situations like that because I have had a great manager or VP of HR supporting me in terms of giving me feedback and letting me know that I am doing a good job and I am doing enough and giving me feedback when I need it on different scenarios that I'm struggling with. And it has been a challenge, but I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm learning. I love the impact that I'm able to have for a company that I love and care so much about. So it's been worth it for all of
Good.
that to say it's been worth it, but it's certainly not been without its challenging. It's hard transitioning back from maternity leave and just getting back into the groove of a job that you like know really well and is second nature to you. And it's a whole other ball game to learn a completely new job
Hmm.
as well as trying to adjust to just a typical work day. So it's been hard and it's hard either way. It just adds a new dynamic, but I feel very lucky and fortunate to be able to have that opportunity. And I'm just going to keep learning and growing, and I'm not going to get it
Yep.
perfect all the time. And I'm not going to be the best right away. And it takes time, just like it takes time to learn any other new job. So I'm trying to give myself grace
You
and
have to.
time, but it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard, that like pursuit of greatness, or
Yeah.
that's like what you're striving for. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be fully arrived. That constant feeling of, are you doing enough? Or am I enough? Or am I
Yeah.
good enough for this job? That's always going to
Yeah.
be there. I
Yeah.
think it's
It's
like,
always
for,
in the
especially
back
for
of my
high
mind.
performers like you, it's always going
Yeah.
to be there. It's probably going to drive you a little bit, maybe drive you a little crazy sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Definitely
because I
does
know
that.
it does for me when I do the self talk like that. Am I really that good?
Yeah.
Do I belong?
Yeah.
Those kinds of questions will always come up. But
Yeah. And it's hard too because I'm just very hard on myself and I'm sure you could relate to this. So even when I've got a great leader that's you are doing great, you're doing enough. I'm always like, I don't believe you though. It's but do I believe you? Because I feel like I'm not. And I know that's just my own self-talk and something
100%.
that I need to work on myself in terms of just getting out of my head and really looking at things from an outside perspective. But it's helpful to have that reassurance and that support when you're question the moments where you're questioning yourself and just try to do the best that you can with what you have.
Yep. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're back too, by the way.
Me
I know
too.
it's like having the extra time with your kiddo would be great, but
Uh,
love having you back. I'm really happy for your new role. The fact that 5 years ago, 5+ years ago,
Yeah.
you were a listener of this
Yeah.
podcast and then upended your life from Florida to move to Oregon to come work for us, and look at you now. Like,
Yeah, I
I'm
know. It is
excited
really
for.
so crazy to think about. I think about that all the time of what if I it's because it's a hard decision to make to leave your family and
I
your
don't think I
life
could do
and
it. I don't know how you do it. Like, honestly, I admire your riskiness,
yeah,
your
it was
boldness.
definitely a risky move for sure, but I just think had I not, then I wouldn't have achieved this career goal that I'm in right now, and I wouldn't have this opportunity, and so I'm very thankful and grateful, and yeah,
I'm looking forward to many more conversations with you
me
about
too.
HR, about leadership, about work and being a parent, all
Yeah,
those things. Today, I just wanted to do a catch up and just let people hear your voice again and
yeah,
then set us up for the future.
me too. It was great. So glad to connect with you again and look forward to our future conversations.